Earlier, David Grimes spoke with Harry Summers about how this piece came to be written.
Lorand Fenyves had heard some work of mine and decided I was the composer he wanted for this particular occasion, a concert in Toronto. And so we discussed the project, and I proceeded.
It's actually quite an interesting instrumentation. It's really a small concerto for violin, two percussionists, and the chamber players, the string orchestra.
Yeah.
There's a lot of percussion writing.
Yeah, those things just evolve, as you know, when you're thinking about a work. Originally, I had thought of a work for a solo instrument and orchestra, just a concerto of some sort. And then the sonorities started to come into my head and developed into the idea of a concerto grosso, really, idea, a combination of solo concerto, concerto grosso, where there's an interplay of musical forces. And in this work, as it turned out, the violin has center stage right off the bat, the long solo. And then gradually there's an interplay between the solo violin and the orchestra. And then finally the percussion joins the violin really as a small group, playing on an entirely different plane than the string orchestra. And throughout the work then there's this, I suppose I could call it a dramatic tension, a pull between the two forces.
Well, I noticed that in the score, that the group that consists of the percussion and the violin are even in different time signatures than the rest of the orchestra. Did this cause any, I don't want to say problems because it doesn't sound like it causes any problems, but from a rehearsal standpoint, from a getting it up through rehearsal, was this ever any problem?
Oh yes, it's a great problem actually for people to stay on their own particular track. It's a technique actually in writing that's not unlike using two tracks simultaneously that you prepare separately and then mix together. And musicians aren't too used to this at the present time, and so there was a good deal of slugging and work and hanging on by the edge of their teeth.
I was curious as to how the work would be conducted.
Well, the conductor takes care of the orchestra, and the violinist actually acts as a conductor with his smaller group. And through rehearsal, we have sort of coordinating points where they can, as I call it, meet up at the pass. So eventually the timings will work out quite precisely. Part of the point of this kind of composition is not absolute precision, but a certain free tension that results from unknown quantities in putting these two forces together. And as I say, a certain amount of tension the violin and percussion are just driving forward. The string players, the orchestra themselves, always feel a little insecure because in actual fact the two bodies ideally should be completely separated, and to the audience in a way you're hearing two groups simultaneously. But it does pose certainly a lot of problems in rehearsal.
Is this a compositional style that you've used before?
Yes, I've been developing it over the years, the idea of what I call multi-track composition. And so it's just in line with the development that's been going on.
I've often asked composers who know specifically who they're writing for whether that affects how they're going to write. It obviously is, but you must often, obviously hope that the work has a life outside of the original commission, or...
Oh, yes. Well, as you know, as a composer, anything you create, you want to move around and move out. And, but in spite of that, I definitely was thinking of Lorand Fenyves' consummate technique, also something of his Hungarian background and the intensity with which he plays certain things, and very much part of the work. I suppose there, in the, how should I call it, the emotional intensity of the line, I was very much thinking of his particular qualities and performance.
That was composer Harry Summers in conversation with David Grimes. Here is the premiere of Concertante for violin, percussion, and string orchestra by Canadian composer Harry Summers. Lorand Fenyves is the violin soloist. Robert Becker and Russell Hartenberger are the percussionists, and the chamber players of Toronto are conducted by Winston Weber. We've just heard the world premiere of Concertante for violin, percussion, and chamber orchestra by Harry Summers. The violin soloist was Lorand Fenyves. The percussionists were Robert Becker and Russell Hartenberger. And Winston Weber conducted the chamber players of Toronto.